I am Dr. Nalini Avinash Wagmare, working as an assistant professor at Kirat Maharashtra Vidyapit, Pune. Today's our topic is related to Bahamani Dynasty. Bahamani Dynasty, the period is 1347 to 1527. In this lecture, we have to study related to sources of Bahamani Dynasty, and the rulers' achievements in various fields, as well as Muhammad Gawan, who was a famous wazir of that period, along with the trade and commerce of that Bahamani period, as well as their contribution to art and architecture. And now the one of the famous Bidri art we also cover in this lecture, and some references which is referred for this lecture. So Bahamani territory in India, in this map, southern parts we have shows in this lecture. So Bahamani dynasty in South India, actually Bahamani and Vijayanagara both are parallel, both are only 10 years differences we find here. One is established for the protection of Hindu religion, that is Vijayanagara dynasty, then another one is Bahamani dynasty. So both are contemporary dynasties, we can call it. So what were the sources of study this Bahamani dynasty? Actually, most of the sources available in various languages, regional languages, but most important sources we have to study here related to Bahamani dynasty, Persian sources of Bahamani dynasty, Gulshan-e-Ibrahim by Muhammad Qasim Ferista, then Siraj-e-Tariq Bahamani by Mullah Muhammad Lari, Tahfat-us-Salatin Bahamani by Mullah Daud Bidri, and Fatah-us-Salatin by Anga Mahindi Hussain, Burhan-e-Masiri by Sayyid Ali Tabatabai, Tazakirat-ul-Muluk by Rafiuddin King and their warfare. Gulshan-e-Ibrahim is translated in English also. Riyaz-ul-Insha, 148 letters by Muhammad Gawan. Then other Urdu sources are Abdul Majid Siddiqui, Sultanat-e-Bahmaniya, Ziauddin, Zahiruddin Ahmad, Ahmad Shah Wali Bahmani's ruler. More information give about this one. Then Aznani's book, the recent published that one, Antiquities of Bidar, even Swell's book, A Forgotten Empire about Vijayanagara and Bahmani. This is a very important book because while we are studying the Bahmani dynasty, it is necessary to we also study the Vijayanagara, because many times Bahmani's attack on Vijayanagara and later on the Talikota war also took place. So some sources related to Vijayanagara and Bahmani both are helpful to understand the Bahmani dynasty. Then some travelers also visited at that time. Their accounts or their records, those are also very helpful to understand this Bahmani dynasty. Then Al-Biruni's India, translated by Edward Shah, 2 volumes are there. Then Ibn Battuta's Travels in Asia and Africa, translated by Gibher. Then Russian traveler Nikitin visited Bahmani kingdom in 1470 and visited all the important centers which are existing at that time. Then Niccolo Conti, Marco Polo, Abdul Razak, Durat Barbosa, general condition of people at the time explain these foreign visitors in their accounts. Then other sources in Bahmani time, the Bahmanis patronized the Bidri art, or now we call that one as a Bidri Kala. So later on, this to know understand this art. Nowadays, people refer the some sources which is related to Bahmani dynasty, Bidar and other things also. To understand that art and architecture or that craft in a detailed manners, we have to go through these books. Susan Stank's Bidri ware inlaid metal from India. This Victoria and Albert Museum, London publication in 1985. Then Yazdani book, Ghulam Yazdani book, Bidar, its history and monuments, which give information about Bidar district, Barishahi, as well as Bahmani's contribution to Bidar. So this is very good book which we can refer for understanding the Bahmani dynasty in detail. Then Gazetteer of Bidar district also important. Then K.R. Baswaraj History and Culture of Karnataka, under that they are focused the Bidar and Bidri art and Bahmani's monuments. Then for understanding the Bidri art and Bahmani, so more for that purpose you can refer the Bhagayat Bidri Kale, it is in Kannada book. H.K. Sherwani's recent books are available to more understand the Bahmani dynasty and other things. H.K. Sherwani is the Bahmani of the Deccan. Then S.K. Sinha's medieval history of the Deccan. Then John Brick's rise of the Muhammad power in India, which is the Feristas book that is translated by John Brooks. So that is also very helpful to us in 4 volumes. Then Bidar is ruled by various rulers. We not go to detail related to Bidar, but for the background of that Bahmanis, just for highlight purpose, we have to refer this one: the Nandas, Mauryas, Satavahanas, Chalukyas of Badami, Rashtrakutas, Kalyani Chalukyas, Yadavas of Devgari, Kakatiyas Varangal. They have ruled the Bidar in ancient time, and in medieval time, you can easily know that Muhammad bin Tughlaq transferred his capital from Delhi to Devgiri. Then later on in south places also, and there also he established rule up to Bidar. Then Bahmani dynasties, actually we have to study the 1347 to 1527 up to. Then Barishahi, Mughal, Nizam of Hyderabad in 1948. Then later on, this Bidar was in the Union in Karnataka state in 1956. Then, let's see who was the founder of this dynasty. Alauddin Bahman Shah. Hasan Bahman Shah was the founder of this Bahmani dynasty. The Bahmani dynasty, we find the 18 rulers, and their capital is actually Devgiri, then Devgiri to Gulbarga, Gulbarga to Bidar. So in the time of Ahmad Shah, that Bahmani dynasty from Gulbarga to Bidar, they are transferred at that time. And the great vizier achievements also more to build this Bahmani dynasty in a strong, as well as internal trade, as well as external trades. Foreigners visited at that time to get the education. The Muhammad Gawan Madrasa, which is the witness how foreigners visited to be there at that time to get the education. Then later on, what was the process to break up of this Bahmani dynasty into 5 kingdoms, like Varishahi, Nizam Shahi, Qutub Shahi, and other. Then this is the list of the Bahmani rulers. Alauddin Bahman Shah, 1347 to 1358. Muhammad first, 1358 to 1377. Then Muzaid Faid Khan, 1377 to 1378. Then Daud Muhammad Sayyar, 1378. Then Muhammad, 1378 to 79. Ghiyasuddin, 1397 AD. Then Shamsuddin, 1379 AD. Then Firaz, 1397 to 1422 AD. Then Ahmad Shah, Alauddin Ahmad, Humayun Zalim. Then Nizam Shah, Muhammad Shah III, Muhammad Ahmad, Alauddin III, Waliullah, then Kalimullah. So in the startingly I said that 18 rulers ruled this Bahmani dynasty. Under that, the last ruler is Kalimullah. Then let's see brief information about the rulers. The Alauddin Hasan Bahman Shah. Feristas says that Alauddin Bahman Shah was born in 1290 AD. He also mentioned an absurd story about his rise to power, because history books give a different opinion. Historian given a different opinion about the rise of the Bahman Shah and founding of the Bahmani dynasty. So here also we have to study. He says that Jafar Khan was employed in Delhi by a Brahmin named Gangu. Then the Brahmin gave him a piece of land near the city walls, a pair of oxen and 2 laborers. One day when Hassan was working with his plough, he got the gold coins and so much of treasury. So he went to his guru Gangu. Then he handed over that one honestly to his guru. Later on, the Brahmin was also strong. He given a information that one day you became a good king. And later on, when he became a king, he given his what is kingdom name as Bahaman. So it's one story. Then another story, it may be considered Hassan was a descendant of Sassanid ruler Bahman, a son of Isafadyar, which also accounts for his adoption of the title Bahmani. Hassan Bahman Shah was a man of great courage and initiative. By dint of pushfulness, he rose to the position of Amir and also became the leader and king of Deccan. He was a great military leader. Hassan died in 1350. With Hassan Gangu, with the help of at the time when the Muhammad bin Tughlaq is a rule in the south also, that time they are not given any importance to these people. That time he taken the advantage of situation and he established the rule in south and he started the Bahamani Dynasty. So he was a founder of the Bahamani Dynasty and he was a great military leader also. Then later on, Muhammad I, Sultan Alauddin Hassan Bahman Shah Bahmani was succeeded by his son Muhammad Shah in 1358 AD. Muhammad Shah's reign combined both expansion and consolidation. Muhammad Shah can be easily called one of the best kings of Bahmani dynasty because he was a brave as a lion. His military talent manifested itself in every one of his exploits. He introduced several reforms in his state related to economic, political, administrative, etc. He died in 1375. Then Muzaid Faith Khan. Muzaid Shah Bahmani succeeded his father Muhammad Shah Bahmani in 1375. He demanded from Vijayanagara, the fort of Bankapur, a busy commercial town. When the Roy issued a counter demand, Mujaid led a campaign against Vijayanagara. So one thing we have to keep in mind that most of the time Bahmani and Vijayanagara fight for control the territories in their hands. That is the main thing, land as well as lake or a river purpose and expenses of their territory and the superiority kingdom. For that purpose, the fight is always going on between Bahmanis and Vijayanagara. Naturally, that time the political power is if you have a more land, more property, more expand your territory, then you are a great king, great ruler. That is the main reason that both are always fighting for expand their territories and control the territories in their hands. He was assassinated by his cousin Daud Khan, who proclaimed himself Sultan in 1378. When the people came to be known of the part played Daud in the murder of that late king, grave assassin rose among them. The veteran Saifuddin Gori placed his support to the new king, but he was opposed by another party led by Rahapur Aga, which favored Muhammad, the younger son of Alauddin Bahman Shah. He died in 1370. And Muhammad II, 1378 to 97. Muhammad Shah was of a human disposition. He was virtuous and just. During his reign of 19, he paid more attention to consolidating his empire. He was a patron of art and literature. He has an elegant taste for poetry. He was a man of letters with great learning in Persian Arabic language. He patronized poets and philosophers. During his reign, the poets of Arabia and Persia came to the Deccan and partook of his liberty. That time, foreigners, most of the people too much attracted to Indian education. Then Ghiyasuddin and Shamsuddin. Muhammad Shah's eldest son Ghiyasuddin succeeded to the throne without any difficulty. He behaved gracefully to all the members of his family with favor and kindness. He had reigned only for a month and 20 days. After him, his stepbrother Shamsuddin put on the throne. In his period also, many intrigues took place in Bahmani kingdom. In his last days, Shamsuddin was blinded and allowed to proceed to Mecca with his mother and given an annual allowance of 5,000 gold pieces. The reign of Shamsuddin only lasted 5 months and 7 days. Then Firoz Shah Bahmani. Firoz Shah may easily be regarded as one of the best sultans of Bahmani dynasty. Even we call as in India also. In his reign, the Bahmani dynasty attained its greatest splendor in the fields of extension, consolidation, and peaceful administration, Firoz has left his name behind. His reign marks the zenith or prosperity and power of the Bahmani dynasty. Firoz Shah was a man of vigor and scholarship, ruled for 25 years. He gathered many learned men from overseas and patronized them. He constructed a city on the bank of Bhima and named it Firozabad and occasionally used it as his capital. The construction of his building was to some extent influenced by indigenous architecture. He developed two seaports which attracted ships from various countries. There was a rift between Sultan and the renowned saints Khwaja Sayyid Muhammad Desudara, who had migrated from Delhi to Gulbarga about 400 AD. So today also if you go to Gulbarga, his dargah is there. Firoz Shah was a man of letters. He was a good linguist and knew many languages. So one thing is we find that Bahmani rulers patronized the Sufis also at that time. Because of that, the Firoz Shah's dargah is still available in Gulbarga. Then Sultan Ahmad Shah Wali Bahmani, who was a very famous as well as great ruler of Bahmani dynasty. There is a turning point we find in his time. Sultan Ahmad Shah succeeded his brother Firoz in 1422. Due to the kindness shown to him by his brother, Firoz Ahmad Shah treated Firoz's son well and gave him a liberal Zagir Firozabad. He had a great military and administrative capacity, and during his reign, he extended the limits of Bahmani kingdom by his campaigns against the king of Malwa in the north, the Raya of Warangal in the east, the Raja of Vijayanagar in the south, and the king of Gujarat in the northwest. By these campaigns, a large portion of the Konkan and a considerable tract of Berar were annexed to the Bahmani kingdom, and vast sums in cash and large treasury of jewels and valuable commodities realized as tribute or immunity of war. So in this time, we find the change of capital from Gulbarga to Bidar. There are many causes to change the capital. What were the reasons? Because you see it in the map, the Gulbarga is below and Bidar is above in the Karnataka map. So Bidar was a central as far as the Bahmani dominions were concerned. The political climate in Gulbarga was famously suited or introduced, and Gulbarga was climatically hot and was stony with less rainfall and fertility of soil. So that time they think that the Bidar is in the safety for political purpose and water facilities also there good. Even the climate is also good. That's why it is a reason that time the Ahmad Shah changed the capital from Gulbarga to Bidar. Then Sultan Ahmad Shah Wali. Ahmad Shah, like his predecessors, was a great patron of learning. He loved the society of learned men. He sent a deputation to Kirman in Persia to entreat Shah Naimatullah to come to his camp. The Shah refused, but he sent his learned disciplined Mullah Qutubuddin of Kirman. Later on, he sent his grandson Mir Nurullah to the Bahmani court. Ahmad Shah patronized the famous Sheikh Azari, who composed verses in praise of his palace at Bidar. He is reputed to have written Bahmannama, the history of the Bahmanis in verse, which is extant. Ahmad Shah, however, paid Deccani Tankas, 7 lakh Deccani Tankas to the Sheikh for his effort. Ahmad Shah was responsible for founding the city of Bidar. Ahmad Shah was a great patron of learning and was responsible for bringing several saints from Persia. As a result, Persian cultural features, more particularly the Shia doctrine, made considerable headway in the Deccan. He was died in 1436 AD. Then Alauddin Shah Bahmani, Ahmad Shah was succeeded by his son Alauddin Ahmad Shah Bahmani II in 1436. The new Sultan lacked the firmness of mind. He could not cope with the new problems of administration that arose out of the increased influx of case. The Sultan led a number of campaigns against Vijayanagara and Telangana besides the Muslims powerful like Gujarat, Khandesh and Malwa. He built mosques, established public schools and other charitable institutions. The most important, which was a hospital at Bidar. He built a garden palace called Nimatabad near Bidar. Alauddin Bahmani II took some Bidri craftsmen from Bijapur, where they were producing work of this sort, and established them at Bidar. He was died in 1458. So Ahmad Shah Bahmani, he introduced the Bidri art to Bidar people, because Bidri art is a art which first came to Bijapur, then Bijapur to then he invited the artisan to Bidar, and there he patronized that art and expanded the art, and even traded commerce to other countries. Because of that, his patronage, still the people are involved in Bidri art. Only thing is that nowadays the Indian people not know about this craft. That's why the art is declining. One artisan are unemployed and they are facing the problems. So whatever I wear this necklace and earrings, it is also Bidri art. Only the reason is that while studying the Bahmani dynasty, it's one contribution to them to be purchased that one and continue the tradition. Then Humayun Shah, Alauddin II had appointed his eldest son Humayun heir to the throne in preference to his other sons Hassan Khan and Yahya Khan. The savagery of this new ruler, who was a volcanic temper, earned for him the title of Zalim. He smashed the conspiracy to enthrone his younger brother, Commander-in-Chief and Governor of Bijapur. So, in the time of Humayun Shah, he was not interested in politics, but he always busy in women and wine. That is the reason, and he harassed the people also. That's why the people called him as a Zalim Sultan. But one thing we find that in his time, appointed one great minister, that is Muhammad Gawan, as a prime minister of that time of governor of Bijapur, but later on he came to Bidar and appointed him there. The Sikandar's rebellion in Telangana was suppressed by Muhammad Gawan. Humayun was ferocious terror, a monster of cruelty, the very prototype of Nero and Caligula. His reign as a stream of blood, on the banks of which orphans and widows groan and cry for being forced into destruction. Muhammad Gawan's personality is the only redeeming feature of his reign. He died in 1461 AD. His death was welcomed by his subjects, who were snatching with discontent under unjust tyranny. Then Nizam Shah Bahmani, Humayun's death was a relief for his subjects. Nizam Shah succeeded him in 1461 AD while he was only a minor. The Queen Mother acted as a regent. She was a woman of great abilities. Khwaja Muhammad Gawan and Khwaja Jahan assumed the office of Wakil the Sultan and Governor of Telangana. The regency was conducted by very well, and it did not take a long time for Queen Mother to restore peace and confidence. The young king died all of a sudden in 1463 when his nuptial ceremony was about to be held. Muhammad Shah III. After the death of Nizam Shah, Muhammad Shah became king in 1463. As in the last reign, the affairs of the government were conducted by Khwaja Jahan, Muhammad Gawan, and the Queen Mother. It was under the rule of succeeding Sultan Shamsuddin Muhammad III, 1463 to 1482, that Khwaja Muhammad Gawan emerged as the actual ruling force. Skillfully, this prime minister managed to hold the balance between the Dakkanis and of his distributing governorships and officerships to both parties. He also won over the sympathies of the Hindu population. The capital was furnished with fine monuments, the most celebrated of which is the madrasa named after the prime minister. External tension continued to trouble the Bahmani, but under the leadership of Khwaja, these were effectively controlled. The administration of state was revised with an increased emphasis on centralization. A conspiracy in 1481, however, resulted in the beheading of Khwaja. After the Muhammad Gawan's death, a year after, Muhammad III died in 1482. So here we see that Muhammad Gawan was a great administrator, as well as a great wazir, reformer, patronizer, as well as he faithfully served the Bahmani dynasty, but conspiracy against him and ruler given a death sentence to him, and he died. After 1 year, Muhammad Gawan death, the Muhammad Shah III also died. This is the Muhammad Gawan, the great vizier of Muhammad Gawan. Madrasa or university exists at that time. It's in the right side, we see that one. Let's see some brief life sketch related to Muhammad Gawan, who contributed to build the Bahmani dynasty strong. He belonged to the village of Gawan in Persia. At the age of 45, visited to Deccan for trade. Alauddin II appointed him as Amir of his court. His reforms related to administrative, military, land reforms, balance of power in his court, foreign Deccanis and foreign Muslims, that time the conspiracy going on or controversial are also there. Cultural contact with the foreign powers at that time. Even he contributed to educational reform. 3,000 books are there. Gawan Madrasa in the Bidar, Persian Arabic studies were very popular at that time. Still this Gawan Madrasa is existing in Bidar. Most of the tourists or scholars or researchers visited to there to know the Bahmani dynasty, Persian art, language, and as well as art and architecture. Even with the art purpose also. Because that time it is the one training center also. So conspiracy against him in 1481, the murder of Gawan at the age of 78, he was devoted to the interest of Bahmani kingdom. He was devoted to the ideal territorial expansions in his time. He fought for glory to Bahmani kingdom. He was well versed in mathematics, literature, and medicine. A reformer of Bahmani dynasty. So his death in detail already I have mentioned that his death caused division of Bahmani state in 5 kingdoms. How his death took place, that is the most important, because Muhammad Gawan was he was a very faithful ruler of the Bahmani dynasty, but because the Deccani they used his signature in a wrong way and showed the ruler. At that time, ruler was very drunken one, and he given the death sentence to Muhammad Gawan. Because Muhammad administrator, he fought many successfully wars against the rulers of Konkan, Sangameshwar, Orissa, and Vijayanagara. But in 1481 AD, he fell a prey to conspiracy and was executed the same year. His death caused the division of Bahmani state in 5 kingdoms, namely the Imad Shahi of Berat, Nizam Shahi of Ahmednagar, Adil Shahi of Bijapur, and the Barish Shahi of Bidar and Qutub Shahi of Golconda. He fought many successful wars against Konkan and other things. Then what were his administrative reforms? His administrative reforms and at containing the excessive powers of the provisional governors or tarafdars and introduced a stricter system of control of supervision. He divided the big provinces into 2 and thus deprived the governors of the control of the fortress by entrusting them to officers directly appointed paid by the sultans. Then his military reforms very well one. He made it the rule that there should be only one fortress under the direct command of the tarafdars in the whole provinces, while the kiladar commandants of all the central government and be responsible for it. Then land reforms. Muhammad Gawan was one of the first ministers in medieval India to have ordered a systematic measurement of the land, fixing the boundaries of different villages and towns and making a thorough inquiry into the assessment of revenue. Then balance of powers he used at that time. Muhammad Gawan thus recruited an equal number of old comers, Habsis and Dakkanis on the one hand, and the newcomers, Serapesis or Central Asians on the other hand, in the royal bodyguard, and while filling the new governors, took care not to show any partiality towards the one party against the one another. He given importance to Deccani Muslims and foreign Muslims also. Then his foreign policy is that he is a believer in the clean foreign policy, as is evidenced by a letter to the Malways, wherein he says that true peace is possible only under twofold condition, and merely the stoppage of a state of war would not lead to a union of hearts unless it is accompanied by eradication of all desire to checkmate the other party by deceitful means. Then it was in a large measure due to the versatility and literary aptitude of Muhammad Gawan, as well as to his love of learning, that Deccan came in for the closest cultural contact with the outside. Then Gawan's own personality give a lot of lessons to us. Gawan says that one must foster consequence in the light of past experience. Muhammad Gawan advised his son to treat everyone according to his station in life in order to avoid the unnecessary rancor or into forgiveness. A ruler should divest the country of all causes of disorder, should be a good, kind to all, whether high or low, be brave in the time of the need, and always hardworking. He says that kings and princes should make a study of the history of bygone ages, appoint reliable ministers, and send as invest such persons as have the power of lucid speech and can put their case in impressive sentences. He also lays a very great stress on the honest civil service. So this is the almost Muhammad Gawan's life sketch. Then estimate of Muhammad Gawan is that the above sketch of Muhammad Gawan's personality will show that he excelled as a diplomat, a good soldier, as an administrator, and as a man of letters in all the walks of life, in only one of which it is generally the fortune of any man to enter and perhaps to excel on the whole. Gawan was a great Bahamani wazir as well as the reformer of the Bahamani dynasty. This is the Muhammad Gawan Madrasa. Then Bahamani and Vijayanagara war took place. Bahamani Empire and Vijayanagara Empire had almost parallel existence. These two kingdoms fought for 200 years over three reasons. One is Raichurdu, they wanted to Krishna and Tungabhadra, then area between Krishna and Tungabhadra purpose they always fight. Then Marathwada in Raichurdu was the battleground, the main bone of contention between these kingdoms. Then in 1565, the battle took place between the Bahamanis and Vijayanagara. That battle is known as in history as a Talikota War, or we called that one another name as a Battle of Rakasatangadi. Then the four dynasties united and they defeated the Vijayanagara dynasty. We will see details related to this in when I am explaining the Vijayanagara dynasty. Then what was the society in Bahmani period is caste system existing there. Joint family system is also there. Position of women is, as we know that in medieval India, the sati system, child marriage, secondary status in the family. Gulamgiri system also existing at that time. Untouchability also practicing in the society. Then food, both veg and non-vegetarian system is existing. The Hindu-Muslim well-dressed and cosmetic things also used at that time. For entertainment purpose, they use the card playing, horse race, bhajana, kirtan, and other things. Education restricted to few communities. Then absence of social harmony we find there because of Hindu-Muslim war took place. Then industries, at that time, Bahmani's local industry very popularized them to such an extent that goods were particularly sent to foreign countries. Cotton and silk mills were established in various factories, iron and steel were at work. Paitan, Daulatabad, Gulbarga produced goods, silken cloth on low prices. Himro, saris, dhotis, dhoria, malmal, and various other kinds of cloth were manufactured, which became very popular with foreign traders and local amirs. Then industries, pagadis of Nanded, Raichur were very much wanted by the amirs of the state. Besides, Bidar became a center of pot manufacturing industry. That is the Bidri work, as it is known, became famous both in India and abroad. Until today, even today, this industry is alive and produces rare specimens of art and skill. Besides swords, water vessels, arrowheads, knives, daggers were manufactured. Training industry, shipbuilding industry was in a very advanced stage at that time. Then the Bahmani government had regular trade with the Persia, Arabia, Africa, European countries. The main outlet for Bahmanis was Goa, Dabul, Mahin. Even the ships exported textile, Bidrivas, Warangal carpets, and other Indian merchandise, brought gold, spices, China goods, perfumes, drugs, horses, pills, and slaves to India. That time, Ceylon, Persia, and Arabia contact with Bahmani's contact with. Then the rise of monetary economy in the south owes much to the Bahmanis. They systemized the currency and founded two mints, one at Gulbarga and another at Bidar. A third at Fathabad is also mentioned in some Bahmani coins. These are the Bahmani coins available in gold coins, silver coins, copper coins, god names, rulers' names, forefathers' names mentioned in the coins. Even Bahmani coins gave info for rulers, administration, religion, trade, economic system, life of the people, commerce, etc. Then the Bahmani's rulers' relation with other countries, even the other rulers, that is also mentioned, but not much research was done on this. So most of the people do research on this and give a lot of information on it. Then transaction in Bahmani period is that increasing use of coins as a medium of all transaction was a significant feature. It shows the transition from a barter economy to a monetary economy. Revenue assessment was fixed in terms of money. Collections were normally made in cash. Prices of all commodities were fixed in terms of money. All this happened in the Deccan at a time when a good portion of northern India still collected revenue in kind. So Bahmani dynasty break up in 5 parts. Then Adil Shahi of Bizapur, Bari Shahi of Bidar, Imam Shahi of Berar, then Nizam Shahi of Ahmednagar, and Qutub Shahi of Kolkata. After the breakup of Bahmani kingdom, 5 separate states of Muslim came into existence. The most important 5 was already mentioned. Adil Shahi kingdom, it was founded by Yusuf Adil Shah. Yusuf Adil Shah possessed great ability and strength of character and rose to the prominence in the service of Muhammad Lawan. Then he made himself an independent king of Bijapur. Although he had preference for the Shia sect, he granted toleration to all. He did not hesitate to employ even Hindus in his government. He was just and human. Scholars from Persia, Turkestan, and other Central Asian countries went to his school. Then his 4 immediate successors were not able and there were introduced their reigns. Ibrahim Adil Shah II was a 6th ruler and he ruled 1579 to 1625. According to Taylor, he was the greatest of all the kings of Adil Shahi dynasty and in most respects, except his founder, the most able and popular ruler. In 1618-19, he annexed the kingdom of Bidar. Bijapur was annexed to the Mughal Empire by Aurangzeb in 1686. Then Nizam Shahi kingdom of Ahmednagar was founded by Malik Ahmad. His father Nizam ul Mulk Bahir was a converted of Hindu and prime minister of the Bahmani kingdom. Malik Ahmad declared himself independent in 1490. He founded the city of Ahmednagar and made it his capital. Then in 1499, he captured the Daulatabad. He was succeeded by his son Burhan-e Nizam Shah in 1508. Hussain was the 3rd ruler of the dynasty. Then in 1565, he joined the Muslim confederacy against the Vijayanagara. The other rulers of this kingdom were weak. In 1600, Ahmednagar was defeated by Akbar. Then, however, it was annexed to the Mughal Empire in 1636. Then Imam Shahi kingdom founded by Imam Shahi kingdom of Berar founded by Fateh Ullah Imad Shah. He became independent in 1490. It was conquered and annexed by Ahmednagar in 1574. Then Qutub Shahi kingdom of Golconda was founded by Qutub Shah, who was a Turkish officer of the Bahmani kingdom. Previously, he was the governor of Telangana under Bahmani kingdom. He declared himself independent in 1512 or 1518. He ruled up to 1543. Qutub Shah was succeeded by his son Jamshid. The name of the 3rd ruler was Ibrahim. It was during his reign that Golconda came into conflict with Vijayanagara. It was annexed to the Mughal Empire Aurangzeb in 1687. Then last, the Barishahi of Bidar. Bidar was this Barishahi kingdom of Bidar was founded by Amir Ali Baris in 1526. In 1618-19, Bidar was annexed by Bijapur. In the 15th century, Bahmani kingdom disintegrated in 5, already mentioned. So Barishahi, one among the 5 kingdoms that came into existence after the fall of the Bahmanis, ruled Karnataka up to 1619. In 1656, Bidar was a part of Adil Shahi kingdom. On the conquest of Deccan by Aurangzeb in the mid-17th century, Bidar became part of Mughal Empire. He had the title. Then later, Asaf Shah, a Mughal general, was appointed as the Subedar of Deccan in 1713. The Hyderabad state, he had the title of Nizam ul Mulk, and he founded the house of the Nizam of Hyderabad in 1724. The Hyderabad state ruled by this dynasty included Bidar area also. It's continued up to 1940. So in the right side, Bidar, Gaurat, Gulbarga and Bhalki, later on is converted in the Karnataka state. So here the history of Bidar with our ups and downs and stories of President bloodshed is also marked by good administration and development of art, architecture and literature. So then later on some other points related to Bahmani dynasty, Bijapur, the Gold Gumbad, which is very biggest tomb in India built by Bijapur. Then Golconda, city of Hyderabad and Charminar were built by Golconda Empire. Ahmednagar Kingdom, the last decade of 16th century witnessed the rise of Chand Bibi, the daughter of Hussain Nizam Shah first. As a de facto ruler of Ahmednagar, she fought against the Mughal army, but was killed in 1600. By her own general, she was the only woman ruler of Deccan Sultan in the medieval period. Berar stayed away from the confederate of Deccan Sultan against Vijayanagar Empire in the Battle of Talipur. Berar was annexed by Ahmednagar Empire in 1572. 1618-19, Sultan Ibrahim Adil Shah II invited Bidar and annexed it into the Bijapur kingdom. Then what were the causes of downfall of this Bahmani dynasty? The weak successor of Bahmani rulers, then death of Muhammad Gaman, who was a great vizier of Bahmani rulers, division of empire later on fire, Bari Shahi, Nizam Shahi, Qutub Shahi. Then religious policy, Hindus religious policy, Muslim religious policy, then Mulki and non-Mulki policy also one more reason Pelawara this. Then always war between Bahmanis and Vijayanagar took place. Then deterioration and demoralization in the Bahmani army is the main cause to failure. Neglect of welfare of subject is again one cause. So some contribution to art and architecture, then fort of Gulbarga and Khwaja Bandi Nawaz at Gulbarga mentioned here. Then Bidar fort, then Rangin Mahal in the fort, Takht Mahal, then Tarkash Mahal, then Gagan Mahal, Sharaza Mahal, Takhti Kirman, then Shahi Malbag, Shahi Hamam, Ul Naubat, Hazar Kotari, Diwani-e-Am, Sola Khamba Mosque, Bahmani tombs, Barishahi tombs, then Bidar monuments, Asturan in Chaukandi, then Chaubara and Abul Faiz Dargah, then Vidri art which I explained in while the Muhammad Gaman time. So the Khaja Moinuddin Chisti visited to a Sufi saint visited to Bijapur. Later on, Alauddin Bahmani invited that person to be Bijapur to Bidar and started to establish the art, introduce art in Bidar. Then its processor, zinc, copper, silver, and particular type of earth used. Then the casting, engraving, inlaying. Then the Bidar Swahili, which color comes the black one. Then these are the Tarkashi, Tahi Nishan, Maktaba, Zar Nishan, Zarbulan, Koftagiri, Ganga Yamuna, and Diwali work. These are the techniques. Then marketing, this in internal marketing, big cities, the Bangalore, Delhi, Calcutta, Madras, Pune, Nagpur. But it's very surprising thing, 93 countries of the world invite export this material exported to other countries like America, Italy, Singapore, England, France, Germany, New Zealand, Sri Lanka, etc. There 200 types of designs are there. There are the few example mentioned there. These are the artisan contributed. So this is the people will give. It's a one memory. The Bahmani's memory or their art continuing till today. The cultural contribution of this, the one thing is that Indo is Muslim art we found. In Hindu Muslim culture we find that great harmony found between Hindus and Muslim till today. Then roads, forts, fortification they are contributed. So this when I visited to this. So this is a tourist place also. The Bahmanis what they afford, pilgrimage places. even art architecture, fort, art, as well as the places. These are the tourist places also. So any researcher or any tourist wanted to visit the Bidar or Burmese places, it is a pilgrimage place for them. Researcher also do more research on, scholars get more information, even archaeologists also visit there, tourist, historian, artist also. So these are the few books refer for this lecture.